So far throughout class, we've covered a wide spread of different behavioral finance topics. The one that I've really taken the most interest in was the logical fallacies that we make and the different biases that are associated with those. They're interesting to me because I find it fascinating how we reflect on attempting to make future decisions based on those past outcomes that we've experienced, and that our bad experiences are forcing us away from decisions while good experiences are making us lean towards them. Our emotions and mentality to neglect are also capable of having large impacts on our choices. And of all the biases we've looked at, I'm most intrigued by the anchoring bias, the bandwagon effect, and the IKEA effect, especially. So these biases mentioned are all discussing, a cognitive basis. And the cognitive basis is one where we form patterns in our mindsets that deviate us from thinking rationally and making the good judgments and decisions that we would usually make free of these decision hindering factors. And they kind of knock us off the course of normality. So these cognitive biases are derived from various principles of perceptual distortion or misflow of logical communication, leading us to make inaccurate decisions and have poor interpretation, which results overall in us being irrational. So the first bias that I was really interested in is definitely the anchoring bias. And that bias focuses on kind of fixating you on the first number that you hear. So an example of this that I kind of incorporated in my paper was when you're car shopping. So pricing is used as a communication tool to express value, quality, and prestige to a customer. So dealers get large discounts on these automobiles when they're buying them, and they get an invoice price. And then they put their retail on top of it to get their markup in. And then, so when you go to the dealership, the salesman is using that increased sticker price to kind of anchor you to the value of the car and what it's worth to you. And then in the negotiation process, you tend to be the first actor, and you're going to express the amount that you wish to pay. And then that's further going to anchor you based on the value of the sticker price rather than thinking about what the invoice price of the actual car is. And that's the whole business model behind this. Um, so to avoid committing the anchoring bias here, the best thing to do is to force the dealer to work out the best deal for you that they can possibly provide to prevent you from overpaying. Or also, when car shopping, it's best to kind of go to numerous dealerships, test drive the same car at a different dealer, and shop around for the best deal for you. Another really cool example of the anchoring bias that I found was mentioned in a podcast that we'd covered earlier in the semester, and it involved an experiment done by Tversky and Kahneman, and it's they asked participants to calculate 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 times 8 within 5 seconds. And then, so they would then flip the script and ask the same participants to calculate 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And the results of this experiment actually came out to show that that first number in the sequence had anchored the participants to kind of, swing their guess low or high based on the first series of numbers. Because you can kind of multiply along for the first, until it gets to a larger number, and then you're multiplying that by another number. And you're out of the comfort zone of what we typically would be able to do in our head. So this shows that even though both equations are the exact same, the effects of anchoring are leading the participants to kind of provide a higher or a lower amount based on what they're seeing. So this is kind of a summary of the anchoring bias and why I found it interesting. So thanks for listening, and let me know what you think. So far throughout class, we've covered a wide spread of different behavioral finance topics. The one that I've really taken the most interest in was the logical fallacies that we make and the different biases that are associated with those. They're interesting to me because I find it fascinating how we reflect on attempting to make future decisions based on those past outcomes that we've experienced, and that our bad experiences are forcing us away from decisions while good experiences are making us lean towards them. Our emotions and mentality to neglect are also capable of having large impacts